The first thing you feel is the hammer strike, like a giant fist punches the hull. Lights die. Your mouth fills with the taste of coins. The air turns black and hot, and the smell of burning oil grabs your lungs. Someone shouts, but it comes from underwater. A second later, your cheek stings like gravel thrown by a furnace. You blink, and your vision goes white with sparks. They told you the armor would hold. Face hardened, they said, tough on the outside. But the invisible killer isn't the shell. It's the armor itself tearing loose inside the tank and finding you. The fortress that turned predator? To understand why we need to go back to the steel, Boitui tanks often wore face-hardened plates, surfaces baked and quenched hard to shatter incoming shot. Hard on the outside, tougher, more ductile within. On paper, it's a smart compromise. Against some impacts, it worked. Against others, it primed a trap. When an armor-piercing round slammed in and didn't quite punch through, the shock still drove deep. The outer face did its job. The inner face paid the price. Under that sudden, brutal load, the back surface cracked, sheared, and threw off a cone of metal. Not a neat plug, a spray. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of razor flakes and jagged shards accelerated by raw energy. This is Spall. It isn't the bullet inside your tank, it's your tank inside your body. Listen to crew memories across armies and you hear the same language. The hammer strike, the instant blackout, then heat and grit in the mouth. That grit wasn't dust alone. It was steel splinters and flak dust carried by shock waves, glowing hot, moving fast. They didn't carve a single wound channel like a bullet. They peppered everything. Skin, fabric, cables, optics. If you were the loader with your sleeves rolled for speed, your forearms were a prime target. If you were the gunner behind glass, spider webs bloomed across your sight and needles drove into your cheeks. If you were the commander under an open cupola ring, your face and throat met the spray. Face-hardened armor, especially under oblique, high-velocity hits, could turn brittle at the surface. The inner layer, forced to flex, cracked and flaked. Homogeneous armor, softer but consistent, handled shock differently, sometimes better at resisting Spall. But many crews rode behind face-hardened plates because they were designed to stop penetration. The irony was brutal. A non-fatal hit could still shred the inside. Now let's explain the sensation. The first microseconds deliver a slap through the seat and spine. Your eardrums protest. The lights and intercom often die as the shock spikes through wiring. A shower of incandescent points skitters across paint, rations, map cases. Oil mist and propellant residue hang in the air, turning breath into a fight. Each breath tastes metallic. Each cough pulls more grit into your throat. Meanwhile, the armor becomes a weapon. The fragments ricochet off bulkheads, bite into soft targets, bury in rubberized wiring, and cut canvas bags to ribbons. They strike with a terrifying combination of heat and momentum, enough to cauterize edges but still drive deep. Wounds look small, they aren't. What nobody knew in the moment was that some of the worst hits came when the shell technically failed to penetrate. The crew heard relief in training. The plate held. In real life, the plate exploded inward. The fortress turned predator, and it was already inside with you. The inner shredder, injuries, and chaos. The first injuries don't look dramatic. They feel like sand thrown by a blowtorch. Exposed skin takes the worst of it. Forearms, neck, cheeks. Tiny wounds bead with dark blood, then seal at the edges because the fragments are hot enough to cauterize as they cut. It's deceptive. You see a constellation of pinpricks, not a gash, and you think you can fight on. Then your sleeve darkens, and your fingers stop answering. Eyes are prime targets. A gunner blinks reflexively as his sight blooms into a spider web, but the blink doesn't help. Microfragments slide under the eyelids like grit, hot and sharp, shredding cornea and forcing tears that sting like acid. He tries to wipe them, smears oil and blood and scratches deeper. Throats and open mouths are next. You inhale at the wrong second and breathe fragments with the fumes. They rake the soft tissue, triggering coughing fits that steal oxygen when the air is already poisoned. Inside a tank, air isn't just air. A hit shakes propellant residue from every crevice. Hydraulic mist hangs invisible until the sparks find it. Burning oil floods the compartment with a smell that sticks to your lungs. Each breath feels heavier, harder, until coughing becomes a reflex you can't control. The more you cough, the more fragments ride the airflow into places you can't protect. Equipment fails with you. The shot slams the breech face, and something shifts a hair out of true. The next round won't chamber cleanly. The loader yanks and swears, feels heat through his glove, and then his glove ignites. He drops the round. It thuds against the floor with a sick metallic ring that stops every heart inside that hull for half a second. He stops at his own hand to kill the flame. His other hand slips in oil and blood. Now there's a live round at his feet, a dead glove, and a fire he can't see yet. The turret drive complains. The traverse switch feels sluggish, like it's moving through syrup. The sights are cracked. The periscope prism scatters light into flares and ghosts. The commander can't tell if the shadow outside a hedge or a muzzle flash is. His headset suddenly fills with static, then a high ring, then warmth. It's blood from scalp cuts he didn't feel yet. The intercom dies mid-sentence. You're shouting inches apart and can't hear each other. Space shrinks. Heat swells, paint blisters, the map case curls, canvas straps scorch and fail. A single fragment snips a control line and the driver's right foot goes dead on the pedal. He pushes harder. Nothing. He tries to shout, "Reverse," but the word breaks into a cough. He can taste coins. He can taste smoke. He can't see the column that pins his legs tight. The human moments hit hardest. The loader reaches again, bare wrist exposed where the glove ended. A line of sparks needles his skin and he jerks, knocking the shell heel into the casing rack. The gunner feels a scratch across his lip, then warmth, then the metallic taste of his own blood. He's thinking about sight picture and drift, still trying to fight, but his right eye floods and every light turns into a starburst. Burns decide who gets out. Fabric turns traitor, webbing melts into skin. You grip a metal handle to haul yourself around and leave skin on it. Fingers lose purchase. A second hit turns the compartment into a glittering storm and the hot wind steals the last of your fine motor control. You try to pop a latch. Your thumb won't bend. You try the fire extinguisher. The pin is fused by a sliver of steel. The fire risk is constant. Fuel in lines becomes mist under shock. Hydraulic fluid atomizes. One spark from a shorted wire turns the air into something that burns. The first tongue of flame finds rags, paper, then fabric on bodies. You slap at it and grind grit into fresh burns. The smell changes from oil to something sweet and sickening. Every second, the heat rises. There's triage without time. The driver is pinned. The gun can't clear. The radio is dead. Training says stay and fight. The body says flee. Your calculation is brutal. Seconds before a cook-off if the hit mangled around. Seconds before smoke drops you. Seconds before another shot tracks the silhouette and finishes the job. The high price for staying is asphyxiation or a blast you won't feel. The price for leaving is stepping into a field of fire with hands that don't work and eyes that can't see. You'll reach a decision when breath runs out. The tank hasn't killed you yet, it's trying. Escape or capture, the last decisions. Hatches look simply until you need them. A shock-twisted lid adds ounces that feel like tons. The dog won't turn because a sliver of steel wedged inside the latch. You slam your palm against it and feel nerve-ending scream. You try a tool. It slips. You jam a spent casing in as a lever and pry until something gives with a noise like bone. The turret ring is a gate that sometimes won't open. A fragment rides the teeth and the turret won't center. If the gun is over the driver's hatch, he's trapped. You try to crank, slow and manual, but the handwheel bites blistered skin. You move it an inch. 2, the ring binds again. Seconds become the loudest sound in the world. Outside, small arms rake the hull. Anyone in the cupola is a prime target. You know what happens to silhouettes against sky? The commander has to choose who moves first because the first man might be the only one who makes it. The driver coughs wet and tries to push. The gunner curses and swallows smoke. The loader shoulders the extinguisher and squeezes. It spits weakly. He fires it into heat he can't see, a blind prayer of white cloud. Desperate methods become routine. You kick the hatch dog, you throw your weight at the lid. You wedge the casing again and hear a clean metallic click. That click is hope. The lid shudders. You push. The edge rises. Fresh air scrapes your throat raw. Sunlight is a blade in your eyes. Timing is everything and nothing. Ammunition cook-off might be seconds away if the rack took a hit, or it might be never. You don't know. You count heartbeats anyway. 1, 2, go. You launch yourself up, shoulders scraping steel, skin leaving patches on edges you can't see. Your hands can't grip, so you hook forearms and roll. Outside isn't safety, it's noise and dust and tracers. Machine gun's cut wakes through the dirt. The ground is both close and far. You drop hard. Knees fail. You crawl because legs don't answer. Someone shouts from the hull and you turn back out of habit, out of loyalty, out of refusal to abandon. You see a hand. You pull. The glove slides off and takes skin with it. Most who make it out are half blind and disarmed. You stumble, trip on roots you can't see, and move toward whatever feels away from heat. The tank behind you breathes flame out of seams. A minute later, maybe more, something inside cooks off and the sound punches your back. If you survive the sprint, the next reality is worse in a slow way. Capture. Enemy medics are already drowning and wounded. They give you a rag, a splash of water, a bandage if you're lucky. Burns don't wait. Shock takes fingers and eyes first, then breathing. Transport is agony over ruts and tracks. Infection follows. Days stretch and blur. You traded a fast death for a slow fight your body might not win. The vehicle that promised protection decided your fate long after the shells stopped moving. Conclusion. Armor meant to shield crews became a terrifying combination of shield and shrapnel, turning a saved tank into a killing room and survival into a slow, uncertain fight. If you want to go deeper into how crews tried to fight back, spall liners, padding, and field fixes that sometimes worked under fire, subscribe and watch the next story in this series. If you found this valuable, check our channel for more military history that faces the brutal realities soldiers lived through.